cold-hearted idol hides a love that never faded, until one night forces him to face the past he tried to bury forever. I told you to forget me, so why are you standing here again? The rain fell hard against the glass walls of the studio, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and sorrow as Suga stood frozen, his hand still hovering above the piano keys he hadn't touched in weeks. The silence between them was louder than the storm outside. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped closer, her shoes leaving faint wet marks on the polished floor, her breath uneven as if she had run through the entire city just to reach him. "Because you never really let me go," she said, her voice trembling but not weak. His jaw tightened. He hated that tone, not because it was fragile but because it carried truth he had spent years trying to suffocate. The last time he saw her, she had been smiling through tears, promising she would disappear if that's what he needed. He remembered the way her fingers slipped from his coat sleeve that night, the way he didn't turn back even though every step felt like breaking bone. That memory had become a ghost, one that visited him in the quiet hours between midnight and dawn, when the world stopped demanding and his heart started remembering. "You don't understand anything," he muttered, finally pressing a single key on the piano. The note echoed hollow and unfinished. "You being here, it ruins everything I tried to fix." She laughed softly, but it sounded more like something breaking. "Fix? Is that what you call running away?" He turned then slowly, like someone preparing for impact. His eyes met hers, dark and unreadable, but beneath them lived exhaustion, guilt, and something far more dangerous, something he refused to name. "I had no choice," he said. "You always have a choice," she replied. "You just chose the one that hurt both of us." Her words landed harder than any accusation he had ever faced from the world. Awards, fame, expectations. None of it had ever shaken him the way her presence did. Because she knew him before the silence, before the cold persona everyone else saw. She knew the boy who stayed up all night writing lyrics not for fame, but to survive. She knew the way he tapped his fingers when he was anxious, the way he avoided eye contact when he was lying, the way he loved quietly but deeply like it terrified him. And it did. "You should leave," he said, but this time his voice wasn't sharp. It was tired. "I tried," she whispered. "For years I tried." The room felt smaller suddenly, as if the walls were closing in on the space they had left between them. He looked away, running a hand through his hair, his mind unraveling faster than he could control. He had built his life carefully after she left, structured, controlled, safe. Every emotion buried under layers of music, schedules, and distance. People called him cold, distant, unapproachable. It was easier that way. Easier than explaining that warmth had once existed, and it had nearly destroyed him. "You think I wanted this," he said suddenly, his voice rising. "You think I enjoyed cutting you out like you were nothing. Then why did you?" she shot back, stepping closer until there was barely space between them. "Tell me the truth this time." Truth. It sat heavy in his chest, a secret he had protected like a wound that never healed. He closed his eyes for a moment, hearing again the voices from years ago, the warnings, the threats, the pressure. The kind that came with fame, with visibility, with a life that was no longer his own. "If you stayed with me," he said slowly, each word dragged out like it hurt to release, "you would have been dragged into everything I couldn't control. The hate, the scrutiny, the danger, I couldn't let that happen." Her expression faltered just slightly, but enough for him to notice. "You decided for me," she said, quieter now. "You decided I wasn't strong enough to stand beside you." "That's not what or maybe," she interrupted, her voice cracking, "you just didn't trust me enough to stay." That hit deeper than anything else. Because there was a part of him, a small, ugly part that feared exactly that. Feared that one day she would look at the chaos surrounding him and choose a quieter life. A safer one. One without him. "I trusted you," he said, barely audible. "Then you should have let me choose," she whispered. Silence fell again, heavier this time, filled with everything they never said and everything they couldn't undo. The rain softened outside, but inside the storm remained. He looked at her then, really looked, as if trying to memorize every detail he had forced himself to forget. The way her eyes still searched his face like she was trying to find the boy she once knew. The way her hands trembled, not from fear, but from holding on too long. "I never stopped," he said suddenly. She blinked. "Stopped what?" "Loving you." Words hung between them, fragile and irreversible. Her breath caught, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. Then why does it feel like you did? She asked. He stepped closer, slowly, cautiously, as if approaching something sacred and dangerous at the same time. Because loving you meant losing you, and I thought if I became someone colder, someone distant, it would hurt less. She asked softly. He shook his head, a bitter smile forming. No, it just made everything quieter, not better, slipped down her cheeks, but she didn't wipe them away. I waited, she said. Even when I told myself not to, even when it hurt, I waited for you to come back. His chest tightened painfully. I wanted to, he admitted, every single day. Then why didn't you? He hesitated, the answer sitting right there, but harder to say than anything else. Because I was afraid. That if I saw you again, I wouldn't be able to leave a second time. Her lips parted slightly, her eyes searching his, as if trying to understand the weight of that confession. And now, she asked. He reached out, his hand stopping just inches from hers, as if asking for permission without words. Now I don't want to leave at all. The distance between them disappeared in a heartbeat. Her fingers curled into his coat, just like they had years ago, but this time he didn't step away. Instead, he pulled her closer, holding her like something he had almost lost forever. The cold walls he had built around himself began to crack, piece by piece, under the warmth he had tried so hard to deny. Outside, the rain finally stopped. Inside, for the first time in years, he allowed himself to feel everything he had buried. The love, the fear, the longing, and the quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, some things were never meant to disappear. The warmth of her presence should have felt like relief, but to Suga, it felt like standing in the middle of a memory he had no control over. For a moment, neither of them moved. Her fingers were still gripping his coat, trembling slightly, as if afraid that letting go would make him disappear again. He could feel her heartbeat against his chest, fast, uneven, real, too real. It made everything he had buried rise violently to the surface. He inhaled slowly, the faint scent of rain still clinging to her hair, and something inside him twisted painfully. This was exactly what he had tried to avoid. Not the pain, but the hope, he said quietly. She stiffened in his arms. Don't look at me like that, he murmured, pulling back just enough to meet her eyes. Like I'm someone who won't hurt you again. Her brows furrowed, confusion mixing with something deeper. You're still trying to push me away, even and trying to be honest, he replied. The honesty in his voice didn't comfort her, it unsettled her. Because this wasn't the cold, distant version of him the world knew. This was the version she remembered. The one who felt too much but said too little. You think I came all the way here just to walk away again? She asked, her voice firmer now. I think, he said slowly, you came here because you remember the past, not because you understand what it's become. A flicker of hurt crossed her face. Then explain it to me, he hesitated, not because he didn't want to, but because explaining meant exposing everything he had carefully hidden. The pressure, the threats, the way people had started watching not just him, but anyone who got too close. Loving him wasn't simple, it was dangerous in ways that couldn't always be seen. You see the stage, he said, turning slightly away, his voice dropping. The lights, the music, the fans, but you don't see what happens when all of that turns into something else. Then let me see it, she insisted. Stop deciding what I can and can't handle. Let out a quiet, humorless laugh. You say that now, but when it starts affecting your life, your safety, you won't say the same thing. You don't know that. I do, he said, more sharply than he intended. Then softer, almost to himself, because I've seen what it does. She stepped closer again, refusing to let the distance grow. And I've seen what it does to you when you're alone. That made him pause. You think I don't notice, she continued, her voice breaking slightly. The way you shut people out, the way you hide behind silence. You call that protecting me, but all it did was destroy both of us. Clenched his jaw, the truth of her words cutting deeper than he wanted to admit. I survived, he said. That what you call this? She asked gently. He didn't answer because survival wasn't the same as living, and he knew that. The studio lights flickered slightly, casting shifting shadows across the room. For a moment, everything felt fragile, like one wrong word could undo whatever fragile thread had brought them back together. You're not the only one who was hurt, she said quietly. His gaze snapped back to her. I had to learn how to forget you, she continued. Do you know how hard that is? Forgetting someone who never really left your heart. He swallowed, his chest tightening again. I told myself you chose your career, that you chose fame over me, that it was easier for you to let go, she said, her eyes glistening. But seeing you now, I don't know what to believe anymore. Believe that I never stopped thinking about you, he said without hesitation. Thinking isn't the same as staying. I know, he admitted. Silence settled between them again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was uncertain, searching. She looked at him like she was trying to decide something important, something final. Then what happens now, she asked. That question lingered in the air, unanswered. He looked at her, really looked, as if trying to find clarity in the one place he had always felt most lost. His instincts told him to retreat, to rebuild the walls he had spent years perfecting. But something else, something quieter but stronger, kept him rooted in place. I don't know, he said honestly. For once he wasn't trying to control the outcome. Her lips parted slightly, surprised by his answer. You don't know? No, he said, a faint, almost self-aware smile appearing. I've spent years pretending I had everything figured out, but when it comes to you, I never did. Something softened in her expression. Then maybe, she said slowly, we stop trying to control it. He tilted his head slightly. And do what instead? Just stay, she replied. The simplicity of her words hit him harder than anything else. Stay, no promises, no guarantees, just presence. It sounded easy, but for someone like him, it was the hardest thing in the world. You make it sound simple, he said. It's not, she admitted. But neither is walking away again. Exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. His mind was still full of doubts, fears, and all the reasons this could fall apart again. But for the first time in a long time, those thoughts didn't completely control him. Staying means facing everything, he said. Then we face it, she replied. Together, the word wasn't spoken, but it was there in the way she stood her ground, in the way she didn't look away. He stepped closer again, this time without hesitation. You really don't give up, do you? He murmured. She smiled faintly. Not when it matters. His gaze softened, something rare and unguarded breaking through the usual distance in his eyes. Then don't, he said quietly. Her breath caught slightly at the shift in his tone. Because this time he wasn't pushing her away, he was letting her in. And as the city lights outside began to glow brighter against the night sky, something changed between them. Not a dramatic transformation, not a sudden resolution, but something quieter and more real. For the first time, it wasn't about the past they couldn't change or the future they couldn't predict. It was about this moment. And for now, that was enough.